Hello and welcome to the Hummingbird series. I was like trying to remember what I called this. I'm doing this series where we're just doing short interviews with lovely people who I think can really have some wisdom to share. And I want you guys to meet my friend Judy Breuer, who is a health advocate, health educator, and she's been through some stuff personally and with her health and found a way through that. And I just invited her to come along and just to share kind of a little bit about her story and a little bit about what, if you're going through some sort of health crisis or interfacing with the world of medicine or healing and you're not getting what you need, Judy might have some ideas for you. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you. So tell us anything. Start anywhere.
Right.
Begin where you are.
Well, where I am. So I have a podcast, and that's kind of like been the culmination of so much of what I have been through / done / learned. So my podcast, the purpose of my podcast is really to bring ideas, modalities, information forward to help people have another option to, that's kind of like not our traditional Western medicine, right? And Western medicine is wonderful and it has its place and it's a great place to start. However, it also sometimes has a wall. And I've, with my own experience and with other people, have really learned that there's a lot of missing pieces to that people just aren't aware of. So my journey led me here. So I on my podcast is interviews with practitioners, ideas, concepts, things that help our health in a lot of different ways. So it's not just practitioners. I'm going to be talking to restaurants and, maybe it's modalities or things or places that you already know about, but maybe this brings something forward that's new or something you haven't heard of at all, right? So just a little bit about my history is I had some health issues, which basically boiled the best way to explain it is fibromyalgia type stuff when I was young. And never, that was when fibromyalgia just started to be a thing. And so in the Twin Cities, there was a fibromyalgia clinic and I went there and they're like, yeah, we don't really think this. We don't know this is what you've got. We want you to keep looking, but if you want to go through this, go for it, which was really great. And part of what they do is they give you drugs, like they give you low level antidepressants. They didn't do anything good for me. They would do something great for a week and then I was miserable.
Okay. And just for people who don't know what fibromyalgia is, it's this constellation of like symptoms and findings, which we don't necessarily have a great
idea. Yeah. It's like, it's there's still this kind of mystery. There's some answers, but there's still mystery. What is it? And it kind of feels like you're beat up all the time. Like that was that was the best way to describe it, is that I felt like I've been totally beat up, but not have been beaten up. So, and just really struggling with finding things that work. Well, like I said, the drugs didn't work. I had 2 doctors who kind of said, hey, if the drugs don't work for you, they're not good for you. Mm-hmm. So don't take them. We're just going to keep pounding more into you. And then if it doesn't work, we don't know what to do. So I wanted to explore the natural side of things. I did that. And it was a gut thing. So for me,
when you say it's a gut thing, what does that mean?
Well,
for people who are like, what does it mean? It's a gut thing.
It's so interesting because it's some of those things you figure out after it happened, when you're looking back years ago. It was like, I found this thing, it felt right. It was like, okay, that looks interesting and that feels like something that I don't know if it's going to help, but it feels like it's a path that I should be exploring.
So you just felt drawn to it.
Yeah.
Inexplicably drawn.
Well, and I was like, okay, I know drugs are not great for me. And what else can I do? This is natural. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean everything natural is great, but this feels like a more resonating thing with my body. So that's kind of the path I took, was starting there. And when you find those people in your path that you're like, I need to know this person, I need to work with this person, that's what I kept holding on to and running with.
So basically. You felt like you were running into the right people?
Right. Well, right. And looking at just kind of the things that would cross my path and checking in with them. Like, does this make sense? Does this not make sense? What can I take from this? And how is it serving me? And so I tried many, many different things. But I really did feel like everything was very small steps for me, but I felt like they were leading me somewhere. And
so instead of it being like one big, like, boom, you're cured, move on.
Right, yeah.
It was this, you almost were required to go on a little hero's journey.
Exactly. Well, yeah. And one I'm physically still on. But the fun part about it, and, you know, who knows, chicken or the egg, what comes first and how it all leads up. But it helps me to work with people who are kind of like sort of health misfits or outliers, where they do need somebody to hear their frustration, their struggle, because they don't, you know, and those are the people I tend to run into and talk to.
So those who have mystery illnesses, maybe,
right,
and are frustrating.
Right, they're frustrated, or they just don't know where else to turn. So those are the conversations of, you know, I had a conversation with this woman a while back, bunch of ideas, and she's like, oh my gosh, my doctor never told me about these things. This is totally different, right? Or just things she had never heard of. But I can have that kind of the compassion and the understanding of how frustrating it is to be not having answers, not knowing what you're doing. So, you know, I would encourage people, be open to what's there and listen. Some things you'll hear that maybe they don't quite resonate with you, or you're like, I don't know what I think about that, but let it sit and let it maybe even lead you to the next piece, you know, but just being open to hearing that. And you got to check in with yourself, obviously. But when I certainly learned that that I was kind of on my own, right? That the system, just because of the knowledge wasn't there, that I wasn't really prepared to figure all this out myself. So I had to take a different journey.
Right.
So follow your intuition and go with your gut, and really, some of it is, you might even go, this doesn't make sense to me. Why am I going to do this? Why am I doing this? This is not really in my belief system, or whatever the case might be.
Right.
But sometimes that's the time to go, okay, maybe I should run with this, because I'm not freaking out about it, right?
And I like that idea of, or like, I can imagine myself, maybe the way I would go through, like, keeping a journal, like, okay, I went to see Dr. X or nurse practitioner X, and this is what they told me, and here was my feeling about that. Like, either, yay, it felt like a green light, or I had a lot of questions, or it didn't sound good at all.
Right.
Because I think sometimes when we ignore our own intuition, we do it at our peril. And sometimes we have to ignore it once to learn how crummy that feels, when we just thwart that self and say, well, I'll do whatever they say to do, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And you know, you kind of got to play with that sometimes. Here's the result. How did I really feel going into it? You know, because sometimes you're going to do things that are against your intuition, and you might get something from that too, you know? So I would encourage that. And I would also, having support, like whether it's a health thing or a not health thing, I mean, just even in general, any support you can have of people understanding what you are doing, where you're coming from, how you're feeling. And even if they can't, you know, support you if they can just support you emotionally, but really take the time to understand where you're coming from and hear you and get it. And, you know, keep those people in your life who do get it.
Amen.
Because it's so, you know, you can have yes men around you, right? That are like, yeah, that's great. Go for it. Everything is go for it. Everything is supportive. That's not always serving us either, because it's great to have positive people in your world, but sometimes having those people who can ask you critical questions, and they're not necessarily judgmental, but asking you, you know, here's what I know about you. Does this fit? Or, hey, maybe this might come out of it. And I'm thinking, you know, I was thinking about when we were talking about this morning or earlier today, whether it's a health issue or are you trying to move forward in your life journey. And I was thinking, you know, sometimes having that third party, where like when I was pulling my podcast together and kind of figuring out what am I doing with my world, right? Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? How do I want to help people? Which was kind of my question. Like, where do I fit in the world of helping people? Because, you know, I can be a teacher, but that's not really quite what I want to do. I'm happy to do that work, but it was like, it has to be bigger and broader and different in some way. And it's not about me teaching. It's about me sharing information and getting it to the right people. So hence that's where the podcast came from. But having that third party who is sort of an outside source who can look at, they don't know the inner essence of you, but sometimes they can see the outer essence and help point that out to yourself, to you, and you can believe it differently because they're not trying to impress you. Right. They're trying to help you. So that's where coaches can be great. Health coaches, life coaches, whatever the case may be. And even health coaches, talking to them about, here's my struggle. What do you think about this? And they may have a positive or a negative about, and take it in, but still listen to your gut,
Well, one thing I was going to say, sometimes you might find yourself, maybe you're listening to this and you're saying, well, I don't have like a tribe of people that understands me or supports me or even wants to listen to me. Like, I feel like I've burned a lot of bridges, or everybody around me is kind of sick and tired of me. I mean, I know when I got to a certain point in wasn't my health journey, but my journey leaving medicine, it was like, it felt like I didn't have as many people I could talk to. So if that's the case for you, one thing is searching out like-minded people on forums online. Maybe there's a support group in your area. Maybe there's a health coach in your area that's giving a free something, or or there's a community established with a podcast you like. Maybe you're going to start a podcast community. I don't know, but like that can be a really wonderful, because there are other people, you're not, just so you get that feeling that you're not alone, and you realize, my gosh, somebody else has got fibromyalgia, or somebody else has this mystery condition, or is feeling stuck in the way that you're feeling stuck.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yeah. Search out. I mean, if that's what you need, search out, go call places and people and say, here, maybe it's a chronic condition. I mean, if you're dealing with something, you don't know what it is, it's a chronic condition in most cases, right? Mm-hmm. So searching out, any speakers, anywhere where you can get yourself in a place where you can talk to people, right? And just find those connections. Because you're right. Sometimes when especially when you've had serious health issues, people they're worn out, on some level. And that's a bummer, and that's hard and that's real. Mm-hmm. So you do need to find, and then through those people, that's where you can sometimes, holy cow, you can find out there's this is what helped me. This is what I did. This is what I talked to. This is the modality. Yeah. There's so much that can be gained, and it doesn't have to be a huge time commitment or a huge thing, but talk to people, because that's the only way you get answers.
Yeah.
Is to talk to people.
And in person is wonderful, but I know I got so much support and just emotional. I don't know. I almost felt like I had a secret clubhouse with all these different authors that helped me. So I would listen to audiobooks or like you're saying, interviews or recordings. There's a billion things out there. So much material out there. So whatever's going on with you, Google it and listen for interviews, and you might find really good company that will, in the meantime, as you're looking for your tribe, if you haven't found them yet, you may find good company that way.
And that's so true. Sometimes when you, like, for instance, find a podcast that's consistent and they get you, and you know it's not a back and forth thing, but you feel this relief and this, okay, I'm not alone. Yeah. Totally true.
So if you could leave, if somebody who's listening to this is struggling with a health crisis or a chronic condition that's just struggling mightily, what's your piece of advice? What would you, if you could just tell them one thing, what would you leave them with?
I would say, be open to ideas of what options might be out there. Ask questions, be willing to take some risks, like in life in general, even if they're tiny, small risks, like if your health stuff, since it's kind of our focus, take the small risks I'm trying to think of a really good example of maybe going to some a health talk of something that you're kind of like, I'm not sure what I think about this. Go and start there and maybe try something small, try to do something a little different. Maybe it's a food thing. Maybe it's working with a practitioner and it's a supplement thing or a movement thing, take those risks. And I think of, again, even I feel like my health journey was a lot of that. Mm-hmm. It was meeting people, meeting practitioners that kind of like, I don't know what this is all about, but, give it a shot. And that can be such a huge help. I mean, it doesn't exactly apply here, but I always think of when it comes to risk taking in general, the whole concept of if you take a risk and you succeed, you're a genius. If you take a risk and you fail, you're sort of irresponsible.
Right.
And granted, depending on what you're doing with your health, I don't want you to take too big risks. That's not the goal here, to go crazy.
No.
But the idea of doing something really different for yourself and seeing what you can learn from that. And that's can be so huge, because maybe it's not the right person, the right fit, but you might get some really solid insights that can be so amazing to you understanding your own body. People who think differently can teach you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Judy. And tell our listeners where you can be found.
So my website is Wellness Ren, which is short for Wellness Renaissance, because nobody wants to spell that word. So it's wellnessren.com, and you can find the podcast right on the little tab that says podcasts, and it'll open up and you'll see all the episodes and check them out. And feedback is great. Ideas are great too.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening, and go listen to Judy's podcast. I'm going to put a link on here too as well.
Thank you, Sarah.